Is it too late to call you right back? I gotta be back in a second. I'm off the drink, I'm feeling the vibe. Now you gon' go.
If there's any new people, if it's your first time on a temperature check call, yay, we have some new people. I love it. All right, so for those of you who are new, my name is Marcy. Definitely want to do a formal introduction. My name is Marcy. I'm 28 years young. And a little bit about myself is, yeah, that's basically it. I'm just going to get straight into the call for the most part. But I want to tell you guys how temperature check calls started, right? So temperature check came about because usually we have a lot of training calls. We have a lot of calls that are for, like to help develop our skill set. And I felt like mindset was something that I always is very important. And it was something that I wanted to tap more into, especially during, like on our journeys, there's a lot of emotional points. And I want to make sure that we have something that is kind of like a reset button before the week does end. And then the weekend does start, just to add a little bit of something different to everybody's schedules. So my dear friend and mentor, Katie, of course, I shared this idea with her, and she really just pushed me, just fed me straight to the wolves and was like, we start this call today, Thursday, and we're gonna call it temperature check Thursday. I was like, wow, okay, that's how you moving, then that's how we're moving. And the call came about, and I think it's been going on for, I would say, like a good 3 solid months. I do have a lot of the recordings available on YouTube, which I will drop the YouTube link at the very end. This call will be recorded as well. So if you gain any value from this call, please feel free to, number one, invite people into the next Temperature Check Thursday call, and also send the link out, send the video out of our this week's recording. So for today, I want to go ahead and make sure that I have everybody's permission to just be honest with you guys. Do I have your permission? Do I have your permission to just share and just, get straight into it with everybody? Please drop give me a little bit of something. Give me like a 4 for 4 in the chat box. All right. I mean, you said it, temperature check Thursday, and I check it. I'm gonna check your temperature. I'm gonna check your temperature. So let's go. All right. So today's subject, I'm going to cover expectations. All right. So in the very beginning of, the days of temperature check calls, to be exact, one of my first calls, I shared a story about my life, right? I feel like I have to bring that back. Recording. Yeah, I'm recording it on my phone to post it on YouTube, Jasmine. But yeah, so to get right into it, so in the very beginning, it was my very first temperature check call, and I got a little bit personal, I felt like it was a good introduction, and like I said, back then, it was a small amount of people that I was speaking to, but I feel like that call did hold a really strong message that I feel like determined a lot of who I am today. So I wanted to bring that subject back. So in the beginning of my days I did discuss about my fighting days. So I talked about my fighting days. Who was here when I actually spoke about my MMA days? If you were here when I spoke, if you were on that temperature check call when I spoke about my MMA fighting days, drop something in the chat. I don't care. If you could drop a A, B, C, I don't care. I just want to know who was here. Because if it's all new people, then that's even better. Okay, you heard part of it. Sheesh, okay, please tell. All right, so to me, it's really interesting to see people's reaction when I talk about how I used to be a fighter. I used to be an MMA fighter. Granted, I only stopped because of medical reasons, but that's a whole nother story. But what really catches me off guard is when people tell me, I always wanted to do that. Guys, it's not just what it looks like on TV. Well, you guys see that really quick 3 to 4 minute rounds, quick fight, a really quick fight. Sometimes it does turn into a whole full blown bloodbath, real gory. You know what I mean? But it looks entertaining, and for some reason, people still ask me how'd you get into that? I always wanted to. And if there's one thing in life that challenged my entire mental and physical state, it was MMA. So when people tell me oh my God, that's so cool, I always wanted to do it, I'm like, no, it's not something you do because it looks cool. Do you know the amount of physical, mental, and every part of you that gets put to the challenge? And that's what I'm getting into, like, with the whole expectations part, right? It's all gonna make sense. Just stick with me, right? So if there's one thing in life that challenged and changed my whole entire mental, physical state, it was MMA. Building conditioning, like with running 10 miles in a sauna suit, like fasted, having 1 meal a day, dehydrating my body. I wasn't allowed to drink water for days. And if I'm cutting weight, like only sipping on distilled water, which for the record isn't even meant to be drank. It's actually for ironing. Like ironing clothes, not hydrating humans. All of this, right? Now add the physical state to it, like training camp, which consisted of like sharpening up, like hitting pads, like sparring multiple people. Which sparring, for those of you who don't know, sparring is like mini fights. But my coach would have me have actual full 4 3-minute rounds with multiple people back to back in a day. And I would do 2 a day sessions. So I would do a morning session and a night session. And I would have to spar people in the morning time, probably a little bit on like the lighter side, like 3 or 4 people. And at nighttime, I would come back and everybody came to the class at nighttime. I used to be pissed because I used to have to go back to back with like 4 or 5, 6 different people. And not just that, but I was the only girl that was trained for MMA fighting. So I was training with guys, okay? And I'm a tall girl. For those of you that see me, like, I'm a tall girl. I'm 5'9". I was fighting at 120, right? But I was training with men who were clearly bigger than me and weighing like 210, 215. But the logic behind it was that my coach used to say, like, if you can flip, kick, launch, whatever, a 200-pound dude, what do you think you're gonna do to a 120-pound opponent that matches your same exact weight? Puh, throw you like a piece of paper. You feel me? And not just to mention that, but that's what the training camp consisted of. And like I said, it was back to back, like it was nonstop. No matter how sore, how bruised, none of that mattered. I still had to show up the next day. But you know, you want to fight to win, or do you want to fight to be able to say you're a fighter? Like, that's the number one thing that I used to say. Like, my coach used to always ask me, like, when I would complain about something, I'm like, damn, I'm in pain. He's like, you want to fight? You want to fight to win? Okay. Or are you just in this to say that you're a fighter because it sounds cool? You guys kind of see where I'm going with it? Now we add the mental to it. I had to disconnect from people. I had to go into hiding. Why? Because making weight, being up early, going to bed right after training, because it was the only way to trick my mind out of being hungry. Guys, remember, I was having 1 meal a day. If that's not mental, I don't know what is. It's serious when they say that fighting is a lonely sport. It's not for the weak. And no, hell no, it's not for the weak. And it's definitely a lonely sport. My friends didn't understand. My supporters, like my family, they would say I was boring for not wanting to go out to dinner, for being in bed early, for having different habits, like fighter habits. But it was my lifestyle, you know? But every time that I stepped in a match, it's sad that your biggest haters are the ones that buy your front row seats. The ones that take bets on who's going to win or lose. And sometimes they even bet against you. But you wouldn't know that. Because as long as you're winning, they're always going to ride that wave. They're with the hype, right? But let me tell you something. The moment that you lose, they have the most to say. The moment that you lose a match, they have the most to say. So it's kind of like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You guys see where I'm going with it? I remember being in a fight. I will never forget this. I remember being in a fight. And I actually told this story one time at Neno and Nainoa, if I'm not mistaken. I'm like, you know, it's crazy because I really mean it when I say that haters, like your haters will literally buy front row seats. And those haters are familiar faces, family. They're really familiar faces. I remember one time it was actually one of my hardest fights. It was one of my toughest fights. And I remember that I was weeded, like I was tired. I was physically and mentally just not there. I took a really strong hit, as a matter of fact, a really, really, really hard hit that it kind of like, it dazed me real quick. Like, it dazed me. Like, I felt like I might slip out of consciousness, and I was like, whoa, like, I had to ground myself really quick. Hold on, check the waiting room. Oh. All right. Like I was saying, like, I remember that once, like, it was actually one of my toughest fights, to be honest with you. And I remember that I was literally in the middle of a round. I think it was like the second or third round. And I remember that I got hit so hard, and I took a hit that I was like, whoa, like, I felt crazy. And I usually wouldn't let people come to my fights. Why? Because I always assumed, I'm like, dang, like, the people that love me the most, like, they don't want to see me get hurt. Like, I don't want to put them through that distress. Why? Because I don't want to see somebody that I love getting hurt. If I see somebody that I love in a ring, I'm going to want to jump in that ring as well. You know what I mean? Like, I can't see that. I can't take that. So I'm like, I can't do that to my family, to my friends. But little did I know, I remember I was in and out of my consciousness. I kind of stepped back, and I remember I looked over looked into the crowd to get that comfort, you know, to get that comfort, that, like, support from the people that got the front row seats. I was like, yo, those are my people. Like, you know, like, pick me back up. Like, I might, like, this is a hard fight. Like, pick me back up. And I remember they were laughing. They were laughing. Like, forget the fact that I was dominating the first couple rounds. But family, they laughed. And I remember I was like, everything happened so quick in these fighting matches, right? And I remember I felt that, like, and I was really bothered by it. Like, I was really, really bothered by the fact that at the time it was a person that I was with, and I'm like, damn, like, you want to see me lose. And then I remember looking past, like, later on, like, later on in the match, like, later on in the fight, and I remember I look past and I hear people screaming as they see that I'm falling apart, as they see that I'm down to my last, like, bit of strength, and they're screaming, and they had, like, banners, like, with pictures of me. I don't even know these people. Pictures of me, like, my name was written all over it. I didn't even know these people. And they were supporting me. Hold on to that. Hold on to that thought. Like, what I just said right now, like, hold on to that. The people that were my friends and family, that I actually even gave tickets to, got the best seats in the house, and they were making fun of me. They wanted me to lose. They were probably betting against me, for all I know. But the people that didn't even know me had banners for me. It's crazy, right? How life is. But like I was saying, like, some people are gonna be with you and support you because it's a hype. And then once you fail, they're waiting for you to fail. Once you fail, they're gonna have the most to say. And I think that's the moment when I really learned how to detach myself from people and their opinions. Because everyone from my circle told me that I was crazy, that I'm better than fighting. Like, why do I like to get hit? What point am I trying to make? What clout am I trying to build? Like, but I fought for me. Like, fighting saved me from me. All right, like, it was what actually made me feel powerful. Because, you know, I'm somebody that I went through so much pain that I almost went numb. And fighting allowed me to feel again. Sounds messed up, right? But I dragged myself out of bed every single day. I forced myself to run no matter how sore I was. Some days I would cry forcing myself out of bed because the physical exhaustion was insane. I would run to the gym so that I could weigh in and start my training, and, like, just to distract my mind from even feeling hunger, right? And all to lead up to the day of the fight. Sometimes my body would have to go through, like, dehydration periods and Epsom salt. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that. But it's basically when they dip you in and out of a really, really, really hot bath. And it's to cut weight, to help cut, like, the excess amount of, like, water weight that your body holds on to. And let me tell you guys, like, it sounds light, but by the third dip, you tend to pass out, right? Like, you tend to pass out because you have no food in you, no water. It's just you, it was just me in the tub with a sports bra and biker shorts, just soaking in, like, in hot water, right? The hottest that I could tolerate type of water. That was torture. And, like, I would feel myself drifting in and out of consciousness. It would be like 8 minutes in the tub, 3 minutes out. One time I remember I had to cut 12 pounds in 8 hours, and 12 of those pounds were cut in that tub. So imagine the type of crazy physical state that puts you in, right? But if I was to be a pound over, I was still training up to the point of my weigh-in, right? Up until my due date. Y'all remember last week's call? Up until my due date, I was still training up until my weigh-in. I remember being like, it was one time I was like a pound, literally like maybe a little bit less than a pound. And I remember being put into multiple layers of a sauna suit. I was left in my coach's car with the heat on full blast in the middle of the summer. Like run, and then I would get out of the car, run, then get back into the truck. Then I would hit the pads, then back into the truck until I made my weight. But I didn't stop. I didn't just say like, oh, you know what? I'm off by the pound. I'm gonna go home. No, I trained hard for 4 months straight. I locked in for my whole entire fight camp. I sacrificed everything. I sacrificed food. I sacrificed everything. Up to here. I'm not turning around. We're gonna make this work. And I share this with you guys because on this journey, I learned the power of my mind. And I would fight under these dehydrated and starved conditions. And I would fight to win. I fell in love with that process, which is how I would already win the fight before even stepping into the ring. Like the adrenaline rush, it shakes every bit of fear, like any sensation of being tired, everything goes out the window. It's just you and your opponent, ready to kill one another. Do you know how many people would come to my gym because they had a goal to tap into what I was doing? Because I inspired people to want to be a fighter. Like they wanted to be fighters. Guys, they wouldn't last a week of technical training. They would come in and be like, I want to be a fighter. Sounds nice. I would laugh. Not in their faces, that's rude, but like I would just like, okay. Do you really take my place? Not really. I loved it, but I by no means am saying like limit your goals. I believe that anybody can become a fighter, but they have to sacrifice and adapt and take on an isolation like no other in order to be a fighter. So it's not just you say it and you become it. No, there's no such thing as being able to say you're a fighter. I don't care how loud you shout it, how many flyers you end up on, how many pictures you take in the gym, like with your little gloves on. Step into the ring. Step into the ring. I dare you. Because in that ring, whether you are prepared or not, it will show. Because you're either the prey or you're the predator. And trust me, put me in a ring. Because I fight better when my back is up against the wall. I fought better when I tasted my own blood. Sounds nuts. But there's no such thing as I'm tired. There's no such thing as, oh, that hurt, let me take a break. No. You stop swinging, you stop fighting back, you lose. And it's crazy because my coach, so I told you guys the state of conditioning that I was in, right? During these fights, like no food, no water for probably like some time. Like my coach told me that when you feel like your body is 100% tapped out, you still have 5% left. And I want you guys to, if you take anything from this call, I need you to take that part down. When you feel like your body is 100% tapped out, you still have 5% left. What do I mean by that? When I experienced and understood what that meant, right? I will never forget that, guys, remember, I was at my minimum. And I'm telling you, like, I would be dehydrating, meaning that I wouldn't drink an actual cup of water. I wouldn't actually swallow water. I would hold water, swish it in my mouth, spit it out. I would take distilled water, chew it in my mouth, and that would be my, make it into ice, chew it, and then that would be my form of hydration. It's all tricks. Like, your mind is so easy to trick and manipulate. Remember that. Okay? I say that to say this. I would have one meal, right? One meal a day. My meal would consist of like 5 pieces of asparagus and 1 egg white. Y'all know how small them egg whites are, okay? So that was my only meal for 3 months. Straight, easy. Because my body retains anything that it eats, whatever. That's a whole different story. But my point is that I was at that stage, right? At that weakest point, right? Before a fight. And my coach actually put me into, I was doing my 2 a day, and I remember I was in my last session, and I was tired. I finished sparring. I felt tired. I finished sparring. I did my 10 miles. I did everything I had to. I was done for the day. And I was done. Like, I was exhausted. I literally was like, during the last couple of rounds, I remember he was like, he added an extra 4-minute round to the work that I was doing with him, because I finished sparring regular people, but my coach is a huge dude, 6'4", like probably like 240 something pounds, and he was like, yo, me and you, we're gonna hit pads and I'm gonna shape you up. I'm gonna see what you got. That's exactly what he said to me. I remember that man told me, he's like, I'm gonna push you till I break you. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is not normal. Like, this, I'm already broken. Look at me out. Like, I could barely function. Like, what's wrong with you? And I remember he was like, no, like, put your hands up. What did Marcy do? Put my hands up. Had my hands up, and he's like hitting me. Like, he would like, and at that point I was so tired that my technique started to lose that little bit of my technique, which your technique is your hands are always up, you're blocking your face, you're protecting yourself before anything, right? Block, protect, and then counter. And that's what he had me doing. And I was losing my technique because I was so tired. But he wouldn't take that. I remember I would throw a jab, and I would bring my hand back and it would slip, and he would full blown smack the dog out of me, like literally right here. Smack me, like, put your hand up. Trust me, I didn't want to get hit again, so I would put them up. I remember that I was so tired, and I remember I put my hands down and I stopped and I started crying. I was crying because I was shaking. I was like, what are you doing? I can't do it anymore. He's like, that bell hasn't rang. You still haven't finished this round. What are you gonna do in the fight when you can't finish the round? You gonna tell me you're fucking tired? Put your hands up. And he smacked me. I wouldn't put them up. Smacked me again. At this point, I was like, yo, this guy's not gonna stop hitting me. Put my hands back up. And he kept making me go. He's like, you have 3 minutes left. Boy, throw hands for 3 minutes. Being exhausted. Kept going. I remember I was crying, but I still kept going. And he didn't let me lose my technique. Guys, when the bell I didn't even hear the bell ring, and didn't notice that man pushed me for an extra minute on top of the ones that I thought that I couldn't do. I remember that I dropped to the ground and I just started crying because I felt like I was gonna pass out. I was shaking. My hands were like locked. He had to take my gloves off. I remember he literally sat me up because I was tiny. I was weak. He sat me up and he looked at me. He's like, take this lesson and run with it for the rest of your life. When you feel like your body has reached its 100%, when you feel like you've given it all you had, when you feel like you sacrificed every little ounce of energy that you have built up, that you have remaining, when you tell yourself that you can't do it, and your body wants to quit on you, and your mind wants to quit on you, and you're all checked out, you still have 5%. And it makes sense. So, I love training sessions like that. Hell yeah. How many of you guys have goals? All of us do, right? I want you to pick one of the goals that you have, and I want you to be realistic with yourself. How much expectation is behind that goal? Is it 50% work and 50% expectation? Or is your goal surviving just on expectation? The whole, I want to be a fighter, I bought a membership, bought the gloves, I come to class, so I'm a fighter, and no one can tell me that I'm not because I'm a fighter. Hello, it's my goal. That's where all this is going to tie in, right? See, setting goals is critical. However, not every goal is a good goal. And I'm here to shift the way that you view your regular thoughts simply because we're just not regular people. Regular people set a safe, measured goal, right? Goals that they refer to as realistic. Some goals are real. Some goals are ones that lead to very little disappointment because the chances of failing are slim to none. And we strive for more. Like, we affirm things that we have to envision, right? We activate our senses and exercise imagination. And sometimes we set goals and plant them like a seed in soils or grounds that we've never explored. But because anything in vision is so obtainable, right? So obtainable that we plant the seed and water it and wait for harvest. right? Last week, we spoke about the importance of creating your own lesson plan and breaking life down and creating a new structure for it in order for you to show up for yourself. And I referred to your goals as projects, right? And told you to set due dates for these projects and to do whatever you needed to do in order to submit that project by the due date. However, today, we're going to talk about the type of goals that you're setting, like the actual project that you set for yourself that you're currently working to complete. I want you to sit there and to think on this, like, what goals are you setting? What promises are you making yourself? What expectations do you have for this goal, like from this goal? When you set a goal, do you set it with a safe tone to avoid disappointment? Or are you setting the goal ready to fight past that 100%, past that sensation of failing, like past the one that unlocks that 5% that we all have? How are you going to fight when your back is up against the wall? Because that's when it really matters. Like, that's when it matters most in life. Because in life, there is no referee to stop the fight because it got too hard and you became the prey. See, sometimes, like, we need to really take a look at the goals that we're setting. Like, I know that we read books that tell us that if we write goals down and we read them out loud, then it'll come true. Guys, your goal card or your journal, wherever it is that you're writing these goals down, it is not a magic genie that will command your 3 wishes and then poof, like, there's your magic life. There's a lot of faith and hope that goes into the proper manifestation of goals. And the amount of mental work that you must apply yourself to, the shield that you must build to protect and nurture these goals, like, it's real. You have to smell, feel, taste, and vision, like, have faith, like, bring that goal to life before actually living it. But for some reason, many times when we structure our goals, we have a form of expectancy. Because it goes in this order, right? Promise, expectation, proclamation, and fulfillment. When you live in faith, like, you live as an expectant. But what do you mean? How do we live expecting, right? Like, expectancy is hope specified. It's confidence that something, that a specific thing will happen. Think of hope as a seed and expectancy as the flower. And ask yourself, where are you planting your hope? Where are you planting that seed? Because if hope is a seed, that means that it matters where we are planting that hope. This is where your goal, also known as a seed, like, comes into play. Because sometimes some of us actually run from setting goals. But let's talk about why. Sometimes because we're taught that expectations lead to failure, right? We, as a defense mechanism, choose to not set ourselves up for that, like, misconception of failure. Because nowadays, like, we hear people say it so freely, like, no expectations means no disappointments. Expectations equals premeditated disappointments. Like, do not misdiagnose acceptancy as a problem. Because the only problem here is misplaced hope. Stand for something or fall for anything, right? Like, we've all heard that. Like, same concept applies with expectations. When we lower our expectations, we settle for partially completed promises, partially completed goals. All because we lowered our expectations because we were afraid of disappointments. But we have to make sure that we wait with expectation and put faith into practice. But this practice requires work. Imagine if I step foot into the ring, every fight expecting to win. Guys, each fight, each opponent required for me to train harder, to study fighters. I had to, no matter what jiu-jitsu belt, no matter how many times sorry guys, people are still in the waiting room. No matter how many times I trained for the last fight that I won, no matter what, like, when I took a new opponent on, I had to be in that gym like it was my first fight all over again. Because a new opponent is equivalent to new challenge. A new challenge is equivalent to new goals. New goals have new requirements, and new requirements give you new results. So in order to apply the right type of work, family, we have to chase with direction. Because what are you running full force towards? Like, what daily practices are you putting into play to help prosper that growth that you figuratively planted? Like, there's some tests with, like, which skill won't grant you the full, like, it won't grant you the full end result that you hope for. There's some tests that only the patient will pass. There's some portions of my training that, like, I had to build cartilage, for example. So what I mean by that is, like, in jiu-jitsu, for example, you have to have cartilage, like, to be able to, on this part of your hands, to be able to grip better, like, whenever it is that you're fighting, like, to grip the kimonos, the gis, like, that's what you train with originally, right? Not only that, but to be able to resist more. And, like, you would have to build cartilage on your knuckles, your elbows, your shins, this part of your knuckles, this part, my elbows, all parts of my body, right? But why? Not to protect yourself, but to resist more. And that was not overnight. And to be honest, like, building cartilage was one of the most time consuming. Like, you have to punch and kick, like, so I would have to punch and kick the tires. Like, it was like a huge tire my coach had, and he would, like, set it up, and I would have to punch the tire. Like, it would probably be like a minute each hand, 10 times, a minute each elbow, 10 times each, a minute each shin. If you touch my shins, they feel crazy, like the amount of cartilage that I have built up, right? And it's tedious, right? It's tedious work. And sometimes after, you have burns, like, you have open cuts, you have bruises for sure, but you have to get back in the next day and do it again, because you have to build that cartilage. And it's painful. It's tedious, but it's necessary. Sometimes a little small work, no matter how tedious it is, no matter how painful it is, granted, my pain was physical, like, it's necessary. So yes, I had the skill. To fight, but the patience to developing every last part of my body and mind to withstand and tolerate, like, all forms of pain, that was what took me the extra mile. And I forced my opponent to work harder than me, because it was almost like a shield to my body. Like, they would hit me and I'd be like this, like, pop, eat that. It's nothing. It hurt you more because you touched my elbows. Like, you touched this part of my arm, it hurt you. I would have people tap out in a fight because my shin would rub against their arm. Like, I became my own weapon in many different ways. So how many of us lately have felt like walls are caving in life? Let's talk about life right now. How many of you feel like your walls have been caving in? How many of you are losing faith in those goals of yours? Sorry guys, I have like a piece of hair that's like stuck to my lip gloss. Okay. How many of you are losing faith in those goals of yours? How many of you are scared because your income just isn't where it typically has been? Like, you're at that really uncomfortable point. I want you guys to drop it in the chat box. Drop like a me, drop something if this is something you could relate to, and put your pride aside. Because I know everybody has been there and everybody is going to be there at some point. How many of you are pushing through, like, mental hardships right now? Like, those mental hardships that you really don't seem to understand, like, why? Because you're such a good person. Like, you meditate, you pray, you worship, you give back, you move with integrity, you spread love. Like, why am I still going through this? Why do I feel depression? Like, why do I feel things like that, right? Like, we're putting the affirmation out into the universe, but where is the revelation? Trust me, I feel you. My faith gets tested. Like, it gets tested, but it's what the enemy wants, right? So those negative energies, those negative thoughts, some of us are so tapped into, like, the universe, to God, that those darker energies, those negative energies, it's almost like they know, and they come in and do their best to shake you out of your faith, right? So you know what happens? Because they can't shake you out of their faith, they challenge you. And how are you tested? They shake you. And they do whatever it takes to make you fold. But when you fold, you give up on you. And as of lately, I faced those emotions. Like, Guys, I face those emotions. Like, I put a face to my emotions, literally. I planted seeds. I set goals that only, like, in the right time, being in the right path, walking in the right direction, with the right purpose, would those goals be brought to life? I'm aware. I applied that same fighter's mindset, MMA fighter mindset, to my current position mindset, right? I say that to tell you guys, like, you need to become aware, like, snap into reality. You have full control of what your reality is. And I learned that this week, like, from a friend, like, my friend, like, Aaron. Those who know Aaron knows that Aaron's, like, he's super tapped in spiritually. Really good person. And he told me that every time that you have a negative thought that crosses your mind, like, we must take action. And then the power of tongue is real, family. Like, the way that you have the right to reject a person, that we have the right to reject the thought. So I reject sadness. I reject fear. I reject hardship. Tap in with yourself spiritually. Like, your spirit guides you. And you just have to be still and listen to it. Like, I woke up on Sunday and felt defeated. Me, like, a fighter, a once fighter, like, I felt defeated. And I had no idea why. I was just crying and crying, and I felt defeated. I don't know if any of you guys can relate and never felt that. But I don't bring problems into my life. I fight them. Like a plant. The more you water your problems, the more that they grow. But for some reason, I really felt defeated last Sunday. And I couldn't understand why. And I ended up going to church and... oh. My bad, guys. I don't know what just happened there. But we are back. Let me see what the chat box is. Here I am. Last thing you heard was what? That I felt defeated? Type of 1 if y'all heard that part. It was happening all day. I think it's the weather. Can you guys hear me now? All right, cool. What was the last part that you guys heard? Was it when I was talking about how I felt defeated? All right, cool. I'll pick up from there. So basically, I ended up going to church that Sunday, and, you know, the devil didn't want us to win. And I felt defeated, you know, like, I ended up going, I still went into church. And it's crazy because the pastor, like, at the very end, he was like, oh, whoever needs prayer, like, come to the front. But ever since COVID stopped, he stopped doing all that stuff. Like, he completely stopped. He was like, we're not doing this. You can't have people too close to each other, whatever. But for some reason, that Sunday, he actually did it. And when I tell you, I had to fight all day long. Like, I had to even fight my flesh, family. Like, when I say that, I mean that. Like, I had to fight my flesh to actually walk to the front. Like, those weird fears that, like, you're the only one that's going to be up there. Like, what are people going to think? Like, you look weak. Like, service is about to be done. But when I tell you, like, I cried from the moment that I walked up and I asked what I wanted prayer for. When he asked what I wanted prayer for, I was like, I feel defeated. And it's not like me to feel defeated. But this is me fighting back every negative thought. And I cried. I was the last one in front of when the lights came on. Like, walked out, cried my whole eyes out the whole way home. I never cried like this before. And I kept saying out loud, like, this is not of me. Like, I am not defeated. It's okay to admit what you're feeling, but you have to fight your way out of those negative emotions and face them because they are your opponent. That's how all this is tying in. The next day I woke up literally at 3 a.m., which is the time that I usually do wake up. No alarm, full of energy. Like, if nothing happened, that means that I won that fight. I really thought that I was 100% defeated, but then I tapped into that 5%. Okay, I won the battle because of the foundation, family, because this is a product of days, weeks, months, years of watering that seed, that preparation. But I feel it within every bone in my body, which is why I tell you all, you need to fight what's holding you back from your morning gratitude. Because without gratitude, like you're never going to be gifted because you're ungrateful. Fight what's holding you back from setting purpose, like driven goals. Because without purpose, without the right purpose, expectation, you will never experience fulfillment. And you might as well just live blind if there's nothing to look forward to. Fight what's holding you back from being present. Fight all distractions. Distractions are what block you from unlocking your purpose, guys. Don't be the distraction that blocks you from your purpose. Like, don't be the goal setter that gives up halfway. Don't be the one don't be the one saying that you're going to do something that you're really not going to do, because those are empty promise givers. That makes you an empty promise giver. And I don't mean that just verbally. Don't be that annoying person like in seminars that are screaming to the top of their lungs, because y'all are not fooling anybody around you. Like, you cannot lie to yourself. Like, how much longer are you going to try to fool those people around you? Take yourself serious first. To be honest with you, like, I was even gonna share like a story about like there was, so being I don't know if anybody knows about the whole entire like jujitsu world. Like, you could be you could be a white belt, which is the very first entry point. You could be a white belt for like 2 to 3 years, even 4 years sometimes. And I remember there was people that would come in and they would want to, the next step from there is a blue belt. They would be a white belt for a year, but they would be ashamed, but they also wouldn't put the work in to graduate into the next belt. And it takes patience. You have to be patient with everything in life. And they'd be like a year in and they would be ashamed to tell their friends like, oh no, like, I'm not a white belt because it's the beginner stage. No, like, it's almost like a rank, right? They would pretend to be something that they're not. And like, they'd walk around wearing my blue belt, not to manifest it, not to visualize that blue belt. They would wear it to take a picture for the gram and like, who knows what, like. But you had to be patient. Earn your positions, earn your stripes, earn that belt and everything in life. But be patient while working. Don't just sit there patiently waiting for it to come to you. Because you know what happens? I catch you with a blue belt and I'm going to step to you and I'm gonna roll with you. I'm going to spar you like you're that expert that you're pretending to be. But then you take 2 losses at that point. 1, you failed yourself and you played yourself because you're pretending to be something that you only just fill your mouth with to say. And 2, you might think that match was too hard for you and you never wanted, and then you never want to go back to MMA because it just wasn't for you. That's how that goes, right? Oh no, that didn't work for me. That doesn't work. No, you discovered that you can't fake your way to success and you can't lie to yourself. Like, are you dumb? Set the bar, set the tone. Because you ever realize that a promise is only as good as a person making the promise? So as a leader, what par are your promises at when it comes to credibility? Like, when you set goals, someone is watching. Some of our promises to ourselves, to our team. Like, so when you plant the seed of hope and fail to show up, the next time around, spin the block, your credibility fails and it shows as well. So only you can determine what the reality of your expectations are, because only you can determine if you're going to push all the way through to exceed them, or if you're just okay with mediocrity and rather be disappointed, rather not be disappointed, so you give up midway. Because remember, there's someone always that's around you that heard you make that promise. Remember that. There's always someone around you that heard you make that promise. How many of you did I hold accountable for a call like a few weeks back? It was like 6 of you. I think 4 of you were actually on this call. I remember I held 6 people accountable for something. There's only 4 of you on this call. How impeccable were you to your word? Like, did you think that I forgot about like your accountability, your promise? If you did, like, how many other promises did you just leave floating in the air because you thought that no one would remember? I remembered. And I still didn't see a lot of people fall through with what they said. So I challenge you to push yourself to the limit. Like, push yourself to your full 100%. And when you feel you reach that 100%, push yourself the extra 5. When you win that fight, do it again and again and again, because you're either going to be a winner A champion or a legend? A winner, you win a fight. Anybody could be a winner. A champion, you win a couple fights. You get you get a title belt. But a legend fights over and over and over. Doesn't stop at one belt. Goes for 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a legend. So what are you? I want you guys to enter into the chat box. Are you a winner? Are you a champion? Or are you a legend? If you guys got any type of value from that call, drop some fire emojis in the chat. That's how I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave you guys with that. Remember, guys, a legend fights over and over and over and over. Wins 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 championships. Don't just say you're going to be a legend. That shit requires a lot of work. Don't be that person that's just loud walking into the gym with a membership, like, oh yeah, I'm here, I got a membership, I'm an MMA fighter. No, you're not. Because you probably fold within the first day of not being able to eat a full meal. With that being said, guys, I want to thank each and every single one of you that tapped in with me today. I'm going to drop this recording. And so I know that I saw in the chat that it was lagging a little bit. Maybe a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and drop the YouTube link as well. I'm going to stop this recording.